I was engaged to be married, and I had some doubts about his fidelity. And I decided to get retested. I'd been tested in '88 and had a negative result. And then after being with this gentleman for quite a few months, I was just kind of getting the vibe that maybe I wasn't the only one in his life. And so I went to the public health department in Placerville, the small town where I resided. The first result came back indeterminate. In fact, it was the first time that I'd ever heard the term indeterminate. It's like, oh, kind of halfway between positive and negative, eh? And indeed, that's what it was. So with the hindsight, of much more education and whatever, I believe that I tested in the midst of a seroconversion, where your body, where the virus is successfully, infecting your cells. And so they called me in a month later. We did another blood draw. And this time they sent it to the state labs in Berkeley, not far away from where we are today. I remember I had to wait 2 weeks. We didn't have rapid HIV tests back then, and it was very nerve-wracking. And so I remember getting the call back from the public health nurse, and they invited me to come back so that they could report the results. It turned out to be positive. It's shocking, number one, to answer your question, to get that report. The medical providers believe that it was going to take you out within 6 months to a year of your diagnosis. And indeed, that's what the public health nurse said to me. I think you better tie up your loose ends, Loreen, because this virus is lethal. It's going to kill you. But I was afraid, of course, because I did have friends who were living with full-blown AIDS. They were not doing well on the experimental drug compounds. I mean, I witnessed it. I saw him having really terrible after effects from the early drugs, AZT and interferon. And so while my heart was going out to him, I was like, I don't know, I think what I'm going to try and do is get a hold of the best doctor I can, because there was only one physician in Placerville, but unfortunately, the week that I was supposed to see him, he closed his practice. And he was the only physician that cared for HIV positive individuals. So I did the next best thing and was introduced to the group in San Francisco here, which no longer is together. It's Project Inform. I talked to my sisters. My father knew. I called him. My mother was living closer to me. I called her. And just about 4 very close friends in Placerville. But as far as going public, that was not a good idea in this conservative town. So the public disclosure came many years later, 14 years later, as a matter of fact, in 2006. By 1995, I remember him telling me, Loreen, there's just something really unique about your lab results. You don't have a downward trend on your CD4s. And remember, we didn't have a viral load test at this time. So there was no assays out there to measure the level of virus in your bloodstream and certainly your tissues, right? And we as community members were always focused on the numbers. It's like we'd have to wait for the lab results, and then to save me a trip down, Dr. Cohen would call me. And I started a little 3x5 index card, by the way. So every time Dr. Cohen would call me, I'd, great, there's the numbers, okay. And then he was really the person that introduced me to the fact that these numbers were really outside the normal range. He's the person that described to me or explained to me what that word indeterminate meant. 1995, he said, I think there's going to be someone in the future that's very interested in studying you. And so it was always just like this hope between he and I that eventually a study would be revealed, you know, that was looking for someone like me, and indeed that's what happened. One of my sisters sent me a subscription to Pause magazine in 1994. That magazine, I can't say enough about everyone who started it, everyone who still works there. That's how I learned to read my lab results. There was an article on long-term non-progressors. And in the article, there's this little blurb about this study team in Boston looking for individuals who have normal CD4 counts. It was an article where they were kind of helping the researchers out, saying, hey, we're looking for these kinds of folk. And I burst out in tears because I was like, oh my God, this is the study. I think they're looking for me. And so I called Dr. Cohn the very next day, and he said, come on down, we'll call them together. And a month later, we were shipping 11 vials of blood to the Boston team by overnight express. And that's how I enrolled in my first study. It was just magic. It was called the International HIV Controller Study. He coined that term, right, way back then. At the time I joined, there was less than 60 of us. I think I was participant number 10. It was the generosity of their time and their information that told me, we think you're going to be okay with this infection. We don't see signs of your having any ill effect from it to this date. And can you imagine the relief? It's like, oh my God, thank you. I'm not going to die. I had this sense of amazing relief, right? That not only did I have scientific researchers telling me, we think you're going to be okay, and we've talked to your doctor and he agrees, and, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God, thank God, you know, thank you, God. Too dedicatedly. Most recently, we shipped cells from here, San Francisco, to the Boston team at the Reagan Institute. In September, I gave them some tissues from my gut biopsies, and so those got shipped. The reason why I've done this is because I still worry about the 40+ million people in the world. I still worry about the individuals who need to be on the medications. I want to help. I feel like this tap on the shoulder, that maybe this dawning realization in the Boston lab all those years ago, oh my God, I'm being given an opportunity to help in a really big way. And that's why I walk in gratitude.